Are you a podcaster, business owner, or someone that's in the process of growing something? If you answered yes, this episode, this live stream, this podcast is for you, because today we're talking about why not to follow the trend. And by trend, I'm saying what's trending out there, what's popular out there, what's been talked about out there. And about out there, I'm saying on social media, I'm saying in person, I'm saying all these different things. Because when you don't follow the trend, you create your own trend. What's going on, everybody? My name is Terryl Humphrey. Welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. I'm the host, and over the last half a decade, I produced over 893 podcast episodes while helping 19 entrepreneurs launch their podcast with confidence. And one thing that I've noticed is that if you try to follow the trend, you will be left behind. And today, that's what we're going to talk about, how not to follow the trend, but to create your own trend. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. First thing first, point number one. Point number one, create. Hold on. Not even create. Point number one is to look to see what's working. Okay. I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself when I'm going against what the episode is about, but I'm not. I'll tell you why. Because when you identify what people are talking about, what people are commenting on, what people are liking, what people are actually like inspired by, you can get inspiration from that. You see, the reason why I say look to see what's working, because you can get inspired. You can get inspired to do more. You can get inspired to podcast. You can get inspired to have your own business. You can get inspired. Inspiration comes from any and everything, but you have to understand why you're inspired. I give you a prime example. When I started podcasting a half a decade ago, I started podcasting because I was inspired to help others become the best version of themselves. And during that time, I literally picked up my phone and doing that, and I had three books, and the tripod was short, and I was recording content, and I wasn't even in the camera. But during that time, I started with what I had, and then over time, I started to learn more about podcasting. Then over time, I start to get educated behind podcasting. So I went to my first webinar course and my first online training regarding podcasting with Social Proof Podcast. Shout out to them. But they talked about what you need to have in order to have a podcast. And so I got inspired to have a podcast. But here's why this is important, because I looked to see what was working. Because as it's working, I'm like, man, if it's working for them, it can work for me. I'm not trying to be like them. I'm trying to be like myself. But in order for me to be like myself, I have to recognize what's working, why is it working, and how can I apply it for myself, for my business, for my podcast. What happened is that inspiration hold on. Inspiration taught me what's possible. To this day, I get inspired by other creators, by other podcasts, by other business owners who's doing and excelling well. Why? Because I'm inspired by that. Now I would like to have similar results, but I'm not going to have similar results doing the same exact thing that they're doing. I'm going to find a way to stand out. You see, I want to be the oddball. You got squares over here, squares over here, squares over here. I want to be the person who's odd. I want to be the business who's not like everybody else, because when I'm like everybody else, I can't stand out. When I'm like everybody else, I can't make a difference. When I'm like everybody else, I can't make a difference. But if I stand out, this is called different, E-N-T. When I'm different, I can stand out. When I don't follow the trend, I can stand out. When I notice what's working and change it for my own self and apply it in a way where it's unique to me, I stand out even more. I'm standing out even more because I'm not following the trend. There's trends going day in and day out. There's something new that's being talked about every single day. And if I was to follow the trend every single day, I would get burnt out. I would get burnt out because the trend comes and goes. The trend comes and goes, which means that there's really not an opportunity to stand out if I'm following the trend. Whereas if I see the trend, learn from the trend, apply it to my own business, apply it to my own podcast, but in a way that's unique to me, I can stand out. Prime example, with failure is knowledge. Oh, it's supposed to be and. Trend comes and goes. It's supposed to be comes. COMES. Okay, trends comes and goes. So with failure is knowledge, I didn't notice this, but I recognized this when people kept like referencing. I'm like, what does that even mean? Hold on. And what they referenced was this. A lot of people don't like to talk about failure. A lot of people don't like to talk about vulnerable moments. A lot of people don't like to talk about when something didn't go right. And I didn't really recognize it. I'm like, man, I'm going to talk about the failures because it's taking so long to accomplish the success. I'm going to talk about the failures because I want to document the journey, because before I get the success I'm looking to accomplish, I want to talk about the journey. I want to document the journey. I want to express the journey. I want to go through the process, because what's happening is that, well, what I thought is that a lot of people have the success, but what about everything that you had to do to get to where you are at today? What about the pain? What about the confusion? What about the doubt? What about the insecurities? What about the second guessing? What about the quitting? What about the failures? What about the moments when you wasn't confident? When I start to recognize I was doing something that a lot of people wasn't doing, I'm like, I think I found my lane. I found my lane. Why? Because my lane is my path. Like you got multiple different roads right here. There's a lot of people going the same direction. And I actually noticed this the other day. You got cars here, right? Let's just say, how you draw a car? Hold on. I'm drawing a car right now. This is the car, right? You got car 1. Do it again. Car 2. Car 3. Okay. You got 3 lanes. And I recognized this when I was in traffic one day. It was traffic. Like everybody was going the same direction. Everybody was going this way. Some people was going this way. Whatever the case is. There was traffic. Then I just happened to look to my left. Then I looked to my right. Then when I noticed, I was like, I wonder how many people are actually going to the same place that I'm going. I was like, I wonder if somebody's actually going the same direction. And come to find out, everybody was going in their own direction. Like they was going to their own path. And what that taught me is this. It taught me something, because it taught me just because you might be going in the right direction, you might be going in the same direction, you might be moving in the same path, but the end point is different. End point is different. Why? Because the location is different. The address is different. The city is different. The drive might be the same. But here's the difference. Here's the why that matters. Because when you're following the trend and you do the trend, you might be doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. But then for you to get off on your own exit, to get off your own what is called your own exit, and to create your own path, you have to figure out what makes you different. You got to figure out, it don't matter what business you in, it don't matter what your podcast is about, you got to figure out what makes you different, and then be different as you recognize how you're different. You see, when I found my lane, I wasn't trying to be like the next car next to me. When I found my lane, I wasn't trying to be like let's say the Ferrari next to me. I wasn't trying to be like the Tesla next to me. I was trying to be like the Mazda 3. Hold on. Why? Because it's my lane. It's my lane. It's my path. I'm not trying to be like everybody else. I'm trying to be like myself. And I'm trying to be the best that I can be. So as I come along the path and I'm driving, I might switch over to a lane I might go to lane 2. In fact, I might go to lane 3, but over here, lane 4, you got the exit. You got the exit what makes you different. You got the exit why it makes you different. You see, podcasting is more than just putting yourself out there. It's literally finding a way to stand out from everybody else, from all the other 4.5 million podcasts out there. Well, how do you stand out? You gotta find your lane. You gotta find your path. And don't pay attention to the trend. Because if you're paying attention to the trend, you're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to be burnt out, and nothing's going to work in your favor. It might work today, but it will not work in the future because things constantly change. And see, here's the thing. Your path is different from my path. Why? Because everybody has their own journey. My path is different than your path. Your path is different than my path. Here's the other difference. We all can be encouraged. We all can be inspired. We all can be motivated. Not following the trend is helping us stand out even more. In business, they talk about your competitive advantage. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And for a long time, I struggled with that because I'm like, bro, how do you know? Like, how do you answer that question? Then one day I was in class and they said the same exact thing. That was like, you got to figure out what makes you different. I'm like, what does that mean? So I asked, I was like, a lot of people say when you get into business, you have to figure out what makes you different. How do you know what makes you different? And then the response was, well, you're doing business with me. Okay, what does that look like? Why are you different? It's different because of the experience. You have, let's say, 20 years of experience. I've helped similar businesses like you with this similar problem, so I'm not guessing. In addition to that, I'm not new. You're not the first customer that I've served. Oh, hold on. In business, you have to identify what makes you different, but to do that, you have to have experience and proof of concept. And proof of concept. If you have proof, you have concept. But before you get the proof, you have to understand what you are doing. To be different and have that competitive advantage, you got to have some type of experience in what you are talking about, in what business you're doing, and what problem you're solving, and the solution that you present. Because your solution can be the same as the next person's solution, but if you don't recognize why you're different, you're going to be like every other podcaster that's out there. I had to drop my pen. I hit myself in the nose, too. You see, it's not just that you hold on, and then I drew it on the screen. It's not just the fact that you have to look to see what's working. You have to look and see why it's working. Next point I'm gonna hit on is this: why is it working? Why is it working? Why is it working? I give you a prime example. So this morning, I think it was I think it was this morning. I went on Facebook. I just opened it. The first post that I saw, I read it was like a long paragraph. I read it, and as I read it, it was similar. Like the business that the person who was in business, he wrote a big paragraph. As I'm reading, I'm like, huh. What he's doing is exactly what I want to do. Similar, very similar, very similar. So then I'm like, all right, cool. Okay. That's the lane I want to be in. That's the problem I want to solve. But the solution might be different. Okay, since I'm in my lane and I'm on my own path, what's working? Okay, a lot of people, let's say since my ideal customers are multifamily investors, they hesitate to create content. They hesitate to create content. Why? because they're not good on camera. They don't know what to speak about. They don't see the value of it. In addition to that, they don't know what equipment to use, what software to use, and now all these things are overwhelming. Okay. They hesitate because they're not doing it every day, which is fine. So then I'm like, okay, what if I only focus on the hesitation? Like, what if I remove the hesitation from helping multifamily investors not only launch their podcast, but launch, edit, and manage their podcast? I probably have to change it, but build trust for their clients through podcasting. Or I might just keep it through launch, edit, and manage your podcast. I'm just trying to figure that out. And as I focus on hesitation, I worry about everything that they're going to think about when it comes to creating content. So what if we have a business model, that removes the hesitation? In fact, I think I just found how I can communicate this. What if we have a business model that remove the hesitation, they remove the guessing, they remove the overwhelmness, they remove the doubt, they remove the insecurity, they remove the, man, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. What if that business model removes the hesitation? What if that hesitation was never there, and as soon as we come there to record the podcast, you literally look like a professional? All you would have to do as a multifamily investor is just sit down. Here's the camera. That's the camera that's pointing at you. It's on the tripod. And here's me, the operator, the producer, who's removing the hesitation. And see, here's what happened is that as I'm producing the podcast, I'm making you sound like a professional you are. Because you don't have to figure out what problem you need to solve, how to show up, how to communicate, how to present it. What happens is that as I'm starting to work with other multifamily investors, I'm starting to see a difference. I've helped 19 entrepreneurs launch their podcast with confidence, and the biggest thing that a lot of people have, like the main thing that everybody has, is hesitation. They hesitate to get on camera because they don't want to be embarrassed. They hesitate to get on camera because they don't want to mess up. They hesitate to get on camera because they want to come off as professional. So they hesitate, so they delay, so they question, do I have value to bring? But what if that hesitation was removed? And here's the thing. The post that I saw this morning was very similar to the business I was doing, because essentially they do the same exact thing. They remove the hesitation. They record the podcast. Even the customers are the same. Even like it was crazy. It was crazy. Nonetheless, I was like, okay, identify what's working. Identify what's working. Then I asked, why is this working? Then I asked, why is this a problem? Then I asked, how can I solve this problem? You see, being in business is identifying what makes you different by not following the trend. Just because this other business is doing the same exact thing that I'm doing, shout out to I forgot their studio name, but shout out to them because they got a phenomenal business over there. Nonetheless, just because I'm inspired by this business owner doesn't mean that I'm doing the same exact thing. What it means is that I'm in my lane based off the inspiration that I have. I can stay in my lane to do my own thing by understanding how to do it effectively, which I've developed over the last couple of months, honestly. But here's the thing. Here's what's going to make me stand out. Showing the process. Documenting the losses, documenting the wins. Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But since I'm not following the trend, I'm like, all right, cool. And I start learning about business, start understanding business, start doing business, start speaking with customers, start putting myself out there even more. I'm like, okay, now I get it. I get it because now I'm not following the trend. I get it because I question, why are people hesitant? Instead of me trying to come up with the answers myself, I go out to people and communicate with them. Why are you hesitant when it comes to this? Oh, because you don't know what you're doing. Oh, because you need the equipment. Oh, because you don't know how to post. You don't know how to market yourself. Social media is not just posting. Social media is creating awareness. Awareness is marketing yourself. Marketing yourself is building trust. People hesitate because they don't have trust. Hesitation comes from not knowing. Comes from not knowing. What do you not know? You don't know that that you don't have to follow the trend in business, whatever business you're going to do. There's McDonald's, there's Burger King, there's Wendy's. They all sell burgers and fries. They all sell burgers and fries. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. I actually want to write that down. McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's. They all sell burger and fries. They literally sell burger and fries. But what makes them different? McDonald's got a McDouble. Wendy's got quite honestly, that was I don't know what they had. I don't know the name. Okay, McDonald's, I'm loving it. Is that McDonald's? I think McDonald's. Burger King, have it your way. Wendy's, I don't even know the slogan for that one. Yes I do. Everything fresh. What makes them different? What they talk about, how they present it, how they show up. They all have the same, like they literally, if you go to McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, they literally sell burger and fries. Like it's on the menu, but then they sell other stuff, whatever the case is. But what makes them different is their own value. It's the way that they're doing business. It's the way that they selling. It's the way that they cook the fries. McDonald's has a book and documentary. I haven't seen a book about Burger King and the Wendy's. I'm not saying it's out there. But what I am saying is that you have to do things that will make you stand out. These three things, these three restaurants sell burger and they sell the same thing, burger and fries. But it's how it's made. But it's how it's sold. But it's how it's positioned. Hold on. Let's go back to the first point. The first point was don't follow the trend. Look to see what's working. The second point was to identify why it's working. Why are they selling burger and fries? Why are they only selling burger and fries? Because it's working. But now, just because it's working, you got to apply your own twist to it. Oh, hold on. You got to apply your own twist to it, because if you're not different, you're just like every other McDonald's out there. If you're not different, you're just like every other Burger King out there. If you're not different, you're just like every other Wendy's out there. And until I start recognizing what makes me different, I was just like every other podcaster. Hold on. I was just like every other podcaster because I didn't recognize what made me different. Having a competitive advantage is literally saying we're different because of this. We're different because of that. We can help you because of this. Okay. We are different because we talk about your journey. We are different because we make you a human being. We just don't talk about your success. We talk about your journey, your setbacks, your failures, your doubt. And then we talk about your expertise. And then we talk about why people should listen to you. And then we talk about your credibility. Why? Because that's what builds connection. People want to be relatable. People want to know, like, man, this person is just like me. They struggle, they fail, they endured challenges, they overcame the challenges, they overcame the setbacks. But one thing that I started to recognize is that when people start to connect with the relatability, you start to have more business. Hold on. You start to have more business. We've helped 19 entrepreneurs launch their podcast with confidence. What does that look like? We help them share their story. We help them share their expertise. We help them be comfortable with providing value. I've never read this book. I wish I would have, because it would have been a great reference right now. But there's a dude named Gary Vee. And Gary Vee talks about, one of his books was Jab, Jab, Right Hook. Heard a lot of podcast interviews, really never listened to the book. But essentially, he talks about you have to give, and then you have to give, and then you have to give, and then ask. But what I'm starting to do now is this. Give, I say give, I say give, I say give, I say give. Hold on. I say give. And then right here, ask. What am I asking for? Well, if you're a multifamily investor who want to launch your podcast with confidence, or rather, hold on, who want to build trust by launching your podcast with confidence, I want to help you. Because when you get on the calls, people start to see you more often. Oh man, that's what was one of the posts. Now the post makes sense. I'm not copying what he talked about. What I'm doing is that I'm looking to see what's working, and I'm just applying it to my own business. If I give, okay, what am I giving? If I educate, day in and day out, and talk about the behind the scenes, talk about the process, talk about the growth. If I document the process and I educate, I am giving, I am giving, I am giving, I am giving, I am giving. It's kind of like you go to church and they pass the offering, the plate. They just deliver the message, and in return, they would like for you to give them tithe and offering. But what if, I'm not saying every church has to do this, but what if they educate where the information is simple to apply? Now, I'm not saying everybody is not doing it, but what I'm saying is like, what if you educate, teach people the game, teach people to gain the confidence, and then over time, ask. But I get it, it's business, so you gotta ask good. Like, you gotta ask enough. Last point that we're gonna talk about is this. Be consistent. Be consistent. So the first 2 points that we talked about is this. Point number 1 is you have to look to see what's working. The next point that we talked about is that you have to ask yourself, why is it working? Last point we're going to talk about is that you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. I'm going to say that again. You have to be consistent. Why? Because one day is not going to create anything. One day, one video, one podcast, one conversation, and one anything does not change everything. It doesn't change because of this. Because if you're not consistently putting yourself out there, if you're not consistently educating, if you're not consistently doing your business, you won't be in business because you're not consistent. Half a decade ago, appreciate everybody for coming in so far. Half a decade ago, before I started my podcast, I really was like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And what's going to come from this? What's going to come from this is one, I'm going to help others become the best version of themselves. Like that was the goal. That's always been goal. Still the goal today. Excuse me. And when I start to recognize, I'm like, all right, cool. What does that look like? What does that consist of? Why is that important? Do I need to focus on it? And over time, I'm like, oh, okay. When people start to reach out and say, hey, man, I see what you're doing. Keep doing it. I didn't recognize it was working. When people reach out to me and say, hey, man, I've been watching you for a long time and you've been consistent for a very long time, I'm just thinking I'm not making no revenue because I didn't make no revenue. I was like, I appreciate it. I'm very grateful. I'm very appreciative of that. But I'm like, I don't know what it leads to. Okay, I appreciate it, but what does that mean? What does that even mean? Before the money, I was watching this podcast with Country Wayne, and he was like, the reason why he's standing out now is because of consistency and hold on. Is because of consistency, and when he go to negotiate different deals right now, he has leverage. Leverage. He has leverage. Okay. Why is that important? Leverage means that you have opportunity. Leverage means that you was consistent. Leverage means that you was patient. Leverage means that you was focused. Leverage means that you was determined. Okay. Why is that important? Because one of anything is not going to change your life. But if you have multiple and do it daily, then it can change. And what is it? Business. Business can change. Multiple and do it daily. What can change? Business can change. Because it took a long time to really recognize, like, man, is this thing going to even work? Is it even going to make a difference? Is it going to even, like, connect with others? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Because for a long time, I'm like, bro, how do people make money from social media? How are people making, like, how are people changing their lives? Like, consistency is one thing, but now it's understanding the business model, understanding the problem solve, understanding the solution, how to charge, all these different things. So then when I start asking questions and start getting around people who's doing it, I'm like, bro, where were y'all at in the beginning? Like, what did y'all do when y'all first started? How did y'all start making revenue? How did y'all start understanding that this can make revenue? Like, why did y'all start to figure it out? And then the more I start to talk to people, I was like, oh, okay, everybody. I'm talking about everybody. Everybody had to figure it out. Everybody had to figure it out. So when you're consistent, you're consistently doing the work, and then over time, that work will pay off. But as you are doing the work, education matters Education matters even more. Because now you start to understand what to do, why to do it, how often to do it. Come on. Education is the difference. Because when you don't follow the trend, you follow what you need to do in order for you to stand out. You can't stand out if you're following what everybody else is doing. And since everybody else is doing it, you can't stand out because everybody else is doing the same trend. Whereas if you learn how to stand out, one day I'll meet Mr. Beast and ask him a couple questions in regards to that. But he talks about how you got to do 100 videos, and after the 100 videos, change one thing, like improve on as you go. After producing 893 podcast episodes, I've improved a lot. But then, where's the difference maker? The difference maker was me getting educated around business. Having a competitive advantage is understanding what makes me different. I can't be like everybody else. I'm not trying to be like everybody else. I'm trying to be the best that I can be. And so when I start to really understand, like, oh, okay, when I start to understand I'm not following a trend, I'm creating my own path, I'm creating my own trend, and eventually it will work. I just have to be consistent, not give up, and don't quit too soon. There's a movie and book called Think and Grow Rich. And in this movie and book, it talks about how I forgot the exact chapter, but it was reference of 3 feet from gold. Somebody had came into a tunnel in the movie. Somebody came into the tunnel that was digging for a little minute, and they found like a piece of gold. And they came out and was like, "Oh, there's something here. Like there's something here. This is called gold. There's something here. There's something here." And so he got a lot of people to go work with him. Hold on, this people, and went to go work to go find more gold. That was like, well, if we find the gold, I'll give you a piece. If we find the gold, I give you some of it. But then time went on. Okay, as time went on, 3, 6, 9. As time went on, they wasn't able to find the gold. They wasn't able to find all of the gold. So they was digging, they was working, and nothing came from that. So then one day, the person who originally found the piece of gold went to go and sell it. Like went to go sell the space that they just found. So he sold it for X amount of money. And the guy who bought it, based off the movie from Think and Grow Rich, the guy who purchased the hole, let's just say where they was digging at, he went and hired somebody that understood something about the earth, something about like timing and shifting and things of the nature. So he went to go and he paid somebody to help him understand how far were they from the gold. And the person who was hired, he came back and said, just 3 feet. He said, give it a couple of days and the earth is going to shift and you'll be able to find your gold. So a couple of days later, the earth ended up shifting, and the person who bought where they was digging the hole, the person who bought it was able to find the gold. Why? A couple things. Because of education, okay? Because of people, because of time. Like timing is everything. But if you give up too soon, you won't be able to stand out. If you give up too soon, you won't be able to develop your competitive advantage. If you give up too soon, you won't understand why it's working. So just to recap everything that we talked about today, point number 1 is that you have to look to see what's working. Just not to be a follower, but to identify that it actually can work. Point number 2, you have to identify why it's working. Ask yourself why it's working and understand that it can work effectively. And then point number 3 is that you have to be consistent. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to be successful. It matters that you are working to be successful. So if you are looking for a community or you're in the process of growing and building something for yourself and you want to join a community, I'm going to leave my newsletter down below so you can catch every episode and be in the know instead of out of the know. So that way you can understand and work towards your dreams and your success. So make sure you read the description and join the newsletter, because we're growing together and so you're not alone. Lastly, don't be afraid to fail, because failure is knowledge. I appreciate y'all. Hit that follow and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one.